ever had that moment? Maybe you're just, I don't know, brushing your teeth, something totally ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly you think, wow, I'm actually here. I'm aware of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? Like, what even is this feeling, this, meanness that we all seem to have?
Yeah, that exact feeling, that sense of being present, of being aware. That's the really fascinating territory we're exploring today.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've been listening to a really interesting discussion about consciousness. It featured biologist and KISS and neuroradiologist Dr. Santosh.
Right, from the HyperQuest YouTube channel. They had some great points.
Yeah, they did. And we've sort of pulled out their key ideas about what consciousness is, how it might have come about.
Mm-hmm. Drawing on their science backgrounds, but also touching on some, well, older philosophical ideas, too.
And for you, the learner, joining us today, maybe you're just curious about these big questions, or maybe you just want a slightly different way to think about your own experience day to day.
Yeah, we're going to try and break down some of their most interesting points.
Keep it clear, easy to grasp. Look at this thing that's puzzled people for ages, but hopefully without making your head spin.
Get some different angles, maybe some of those aha moments.
Definitely. Okay, let's dive in.
So one of the first things they tackled, maybe the most fundamental, is just what is consciousness? It seems simple, but
But it's not, right? Because they immediately show there are different ways to even start answering that.
exactly. Keat, for instance, he really starts with this idea of consciousness as subjective experience.
Subjective experience. Okay, so meaning like how I personally experience things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He emphasizes it's unique to each person, that personal flavor of seeing red or feeling happy or, tasting coffee, your specific way of experiencing it.
Like my morning coffee tastes like my morning coffee, not necessarily exactly like yours.
That's the core of it for him, yeah. And then what's interesting is he connects this to Vedanta. It's an ancient Indian philosophy.
Okay.
And they have this concept, neti neti. It means not this, not that.
Not this, not that.
Yeah.
How does that apply here?
Well, the idea is that the things we are aware of, our thoughts, our feelings, sensations, those might not be consciousness itself.
Yeah.
They might just be the content appearing in consciousness, like images on a movie screen.
Okay. So the movie changes, happy scene, sad scene, different characters.
Right.
But the screen itself, the thing allowing the movie to be seen, that's the consciousness part.
That's the analogy, yeah. The underlying awareness is more fundamental than the thoughts or feelings passing through it.
Got it. Okay, so that's Ann Kitt's sort of take. What about Dr. Santosh? He's coming from neuroscience, right?
Yeah, neuroradiology. So he approaches it, perhaps predictably, starting with the brain and awareness. For him, consciousness seems to begin there.
Awareness, okay. And he sees it in layers, I think.
Yes, that's right. He talks about different levels. He gave this example, didn't he? The podcast director one.
Oh, yeah, that was helpful. Like, while the director is focused on the conversation, they're also aware of, like, sound levels, maybe someone walking in the room, the time remaining, all this other stuff simultaneously.
Exactly, that broader field. So he calls our basic sensory input sight, sound, touch, material consciousness, the five senses.
Okay, material consciousness. Makes sense.
But then there's that wider awareness, like the director has. And he even suggests potentially a higher level still, something like God consciousness or divine consciousness.
Wow. Okay, so going from the senses to a broader mental awareness and then potentially something even bigger.
Something more encompassing, yeah, almost like zooming out.
Huh. Zooming out, I like that.
And he implies that maybe this isn't fixed. Maybe our capacity for awareness can grow, can expand.
Through experience or practice, maybe?
Potentially. He also sort of touches on that Vedantic idea again, that maybe the deepest level is something you can't quite pin down with words. It has to be experienced.
Okay, so we have these different angles on what it might be: subjective experience, this underlying screen, layers of awareness. But where did it even come from? The evolution question.
Right. And Kitt tackled that one. He laid out a kind of evolutionary story for awareness.
Starting really simple, yeah. Like single cells.
Yeah, exactly. A single-celled organism just moving towards food or away from danger. It's a basic responsiveness. Not thought, obviously, but...
But it helps it survive. It's interacting.
It's interacting, exactly. Then you get multicellular life. Groups of cells. And the groups that could coordinate better.
To find food or whatever.
They tend to do better, yeah. A step towards more complex behavior.
And then he had that example. The frog. Catching the fly.
Oh, yeah, the frog. That's a great illustration of the next step. Because the frog isn't just reacting to where the fly is.
Right, it has to predict where it's going to be.
Exactly. It has to calculate, in a way, factor in time, trajectory. That's a leap, cognitively speaking. An awareness of time, almost.
Yeah, that is a jump. And then eventually, awareness of self.
Mm-hmm. Self-awareness. He mentioned the classic test, the mirror test.
With kids, yeah. Putting a mark on their forehead.
Right. And when they look in the mirror, do they touch the mirror or do they touch their own forehead?
And touching their own head means they recognize that reflection as me.
That's seen as a key signpost for self-awareness developing.
It really makes you think back, doesn't it? Like, can you even remember when you first realized you were you? It's such a fundamental shift.
It is. So yeah, from basic response to predicting to recognizing oneself, it's a plausible kind of step-by-step picture of how awareness might have evolved.
Okay, so we have this awareness, this self-awareness maybe. How does that actually connect to how we, like, experience the world? This leads into the mind-body perception stuff they talked about.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. They explore this idea that what we call reality, it isn't necessarily a perfect picture of what's objectively out there.
Uh-huh. It's more like a version constructed by us, by our senses and brains.
Kind of, yeah. Think about mint. You chew mint gum, your mouth feels cold, right?
Yep.
But the gum didn't actually lower the temperature in your mouth. It just tricked the receptors that usually signal cold.
Oh, right. Or like chili peppers making you feel hot and even sweat.
Exactly. Capsaicin triggers the heat receptors. Your body reacts as if it's actually being burned, but it's a chemical trick. Our senses give us signals, but the interpretation, the experience is created in the brain.
So our reality is kind of mediated.
That's a good way to put it. And Dr. Santosh brought up some fascinating brain science here, too, referencing V.S. Ramachandran's work.
The split brain studies.
Yes, where the connection between the two brain hemispheres, the corpus callosum, is severed.
Okay.
And you can show information to just one hemisphere. Say, show the right hemisphere, which controls the left hand, a command like walk,
Uh-huh.
the person might get up and start walking, but the left hemisphere, which handles language and conscious reasoning, didn't see the command. So if you ask the person, why are you walking?
They don't know the real reason.
They don't consciously know, but they'll often instantly make up a plausible reason, like, oh, I wanted to get a drink.
Wow. So the brain just creates a story to make sense of the action, even if it's not the true cause?
It seems that way. The interpreter part of the brain wants things to make sense.
Makes you wonder how often we do that, act on an impulse or a feeling, and then our conscious mind just rushes in to build a logical explanation afterwards.
It certainly suggests there's a lot happening beneath the surface of our conscious awareness.
Definitely.
And Dr. Santosh also connects this to psychoneuroimmunology, basically how the mind affects the body.
Like stress hormones.
Exactly. How feeling fear or stress triggers cortisol release, which has real physical effects. Our thoughts, our stories, they aren't just abstract things. They directly impact our biology.
Which is huge for understanding things like mental health and even physical well-being, isn't it?
Absolutely. The mind-body connection is incredibly powerful. He also used that simple example, the metal and the wood in the same room.
Oh, yeah, the temperature thing.
They're objectively the same temperature, right? Ambient at room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
But if you touch the metal spoon, it feels much colder than the wooden block.
Right, because the metal conducts heat away from your hand faster.
Precisely. So your perception of temperature isn't just about the objective temperature itself, it's about the interaction, the conductivity. Your experience is shaped by more than just the raw data.
It really hammers home that our reality is this constructed experience, filtered through our senses, our bodies, our minds. It's dynamic.
It really is. So, wrapping up our deep dive today, we've kind of journeyed through a few key areas.
Yeah, we looked at different ways to even try and define consciousness, that subjective feeling versus maybe a deeper awareness.
Mm-hmm. And then we explored how awareness might have actually evolved, from simple reactions right up to self-recognition.
And finally, how our minds, our bodies, our senses all interplay to create this perception of reality that we live in,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't always a direct copy of what's out there.
Exactly. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to sort of chew on.
Yeah, like if you take all these perspectives into account, the subjective nature, the evolutionary path, the brain's interpretation, how does that change how you think about your own consciousness?
Your own experience of being you and your place in the world.
Is what you perceive really just out there? Or is it, at least partly, this unique thing being created by you right now?
It's a profound question, isn't it? One that scientists and philosophers are still grappling with.
Absolutely. We hope this exploration gave you some fresh food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
And if you found this deep dive into consciousness interesting, and you want to keep exploring these kinds of big questions about ourselves and the world,
Then definitely follow the deep dive.
yeah, let us know what other complex topics you're curious about. We'd love to hear your thoughts.